The jury has reached a verdict, and it is damning. This report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a litany of broken climate promises. It is a file of shame, cataloguing the empty pledges that put us firmly on track towards an unlivable world. We are on a fast track to climate disaster. Major cities underwater, unprecedented heat waves, terrifying storms, widespread water shortages, the extinction of 1 million species of plants and animals. And this is not fiction or exaggeration. It is what science tells us will result from our current energy policies. We are on a pathway to global warming of more than double the 1.5-degree limit agreed in Paris. Some government and business leaders are saying one thing but doing another. Simply put, they are lying.
Unfortunately, the financial interests, the fossil fuel companies, have captured the policy-making process in key countries and have intentionally zombified as many people as they can around the world with false messaging that they knew was false. They knew it. It's been proven to a fairly well. And as a consequence, our political decision-making process in key countries is locked, paralyzed.
In the United States, these are kind of shocking figures. Over 40% of Americans live in counties hit by climate disaster in 2021. More than 80% lived through a heat wave last year, and at least 650 died directly due to the climate crisis. The cost was over 104 billion. And this one still stuns me. Every week, nearly 17 billion is spent on healthcare that's needed due to fossil fuel pollution, while the oil companies are raking in nearly 5 billion in profits. So the climate crisis isn't coming, it is here. We are living in it, and you and I both know that.
Atmospheric battle of invisible things and temperatures that nobody can see. This approach by the climate movement has cut out thousands, probably millions of people from even engaging in the subject. To simply talk about carbon reduction, greenhouse gas reduction, and temperatures is to leave out a very critical impact of this reality, which is people. The people are being harmed, and they're being harmed now. And
Unfortunately, the crisis is getting much worse, much faster than predicted, and it is getting worse at a rate faster than the rate at which we're deploying these solutions. We have everything we need, save sufficient political will. It's been that way for a while.
The ground is moving, but who we do not have with us are those middle of the road voters who think that this is still a problem about reducing greenhouse gases and carbon. It is not just that. This is an opportunity for us to change our society.
Queer ecology wants to pay particular attention to marginalized groups, whether they be queer groups or groups marked by other forms of marginality, because those groups, like nature itself, tend to be exploited by power structures, right? In a way that has the effect of reaffirming the privilege of the power structure.
These are people that know very well that you can continue to produce, you can continue to grow without destructing a single tree. They know it, but it's cheaper to continue to deforest, to destruct, because investing in recovery of land, of degraded land, is expensive. For them, it's easier, it's cheaper to continue to destruct new lands, destructing new areas of the forest.
There seems to be a disconnect between the global south and the global north that seems to be growing and growing and growing. And you know, the longer this drags out, the deeper the divide's going to be. But at the same time, you know, you look here, you see 650 fossil fuel lobbyists, the CEO of Shell walking around. You see all these people in the conference, And there's more people in the fossil fuels than there are representatives from the island, from small island developing states.
So this was really my introduction to some of these social injustices, environmental justice, environmental racism, that really people on the front lines in communities face. And I continue to be drawn to those stories, to be able to elevate those voices, to provide platforms for those voices. Those are often the voices that are least represented, have the least amount of resources to have their voices heard and to be able to make a difference, or at least to have their voices heard in the way that our democracy currently functions.
The irony of the situation is we've won the messaging war here. 70% of Americans understand that climate change is a real and pressing problem and want action on it. But our government remains beholden too often to the fossil fuel industry, and so we need to be able to break that as soon as we can.
I think one of the things that gives me the most hope is recognizing how much groundwork has been laid in the climate movement for young people to step up in our moment, and really make the conscious choice to be part of making this our chance to make our own contribution to the trajectory of the world and our lives. And I think that's a very empowering way to look at how civil rights, frankly, have always worked, right? Like you never do it as one person or one lawsuit or one movement. You always stand on sort of, as you know, Martin Luther King famously said, that moral arc that you build on many, many people that came before you.
Family trees. Before we entered the jungle, my dad asked permission of the spirits who dwell within. He walks slowly with care to teach me, like his father taught him, how to show respect. Then he stops, closes his eyes to teach me how to listen, ekanuk, as the winds exhale and billow the canopy, tremble the understory, and conduct the wild orchestra of all breathing things.
Mm-hmm.